Good morning, metalheads of the internet, and welcome to a new episode of the Metal Meltdown. Now, before we get too comfortable, before we officially kickstart this Abiotic review, I want to quickly remind you that I will be hosting a live Halo 3 drinking game tomorrow night, February 19th, at approximately 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, with the help of my co-host for the evening, Dark Moon Desires, and a very special guest who I can now officially confirm is the one and only Metal Trenches. We're gonna sing, scream, dance, and drink the night away while blowing up aliens and talking mad fucking shit. So if you want in on that action, if you want to be a part of this motherfucking party, all you have to do is stay tuned and say hello once again, February 19th, 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Booyah! Now that that's out of the way, let's talk about this brand new album from Abiotic. Ikigai is the third studio album from this American technical death metal crew and their first studio album in nearly 6 years. Why did it take so long for Abiotic to return? Truthfully, I've no earthly fucking clue, but it doesn't really matter because they have come back, to paraphrase the band directly, with a motherfucking vengeance. Stating here in an official press release, as it has been over 5 years since our last release, we wanted to put together the most cohesive, diverse, deep, and brain-shattering record we possibly could, and I feel like we've achieved that and more with this album. Having written this over the course of the last couple years and finishing this record during a pandemic, the feelings we sought to bring out with this record, pain, grief, desperation, and perseverance, are palpable in every note, chord, and every word, with lyrics touching on topics of suicide, depression, addiction, climate change, and the struggle of finding our reason for being. With that thought in mind, it's especially fitting that Ikigai translates from Japanese to English as a reason for being, and even more fitting that this is, without a doubt, the band's most immediate album. I mean, it doesn't waste any fucking time whatsoever. It is a rapid-fire flurry of insane musicianship and incredibly gruesome songcraft and songwriting that I would argue shows Abiotic at their strongest and most confident point in their career yet. After a surprisingly very cold and ominous introduction, the album officially kicks itself off with the title track Ikigai, weaving together venomous vocals with crippling percussion and guitar parts, contrasting that with some very eerie ambient keyboard work. The breakdown on this is especially harsh as all the different elements I've just mentioned kind of fuse together and go straight for the fucking jugular. To some extent, I'm weirdly reminded of like early 2010's Black Dahlia Murder, but with a little bit of extra spice and influence from some more modern tech death from bands like Fallujah and Shadow of Intent. And speaking of the Black Dahlia Murder, we have contributions from Brandon Ellis on Trevor Strand on this album, namely on the tracks If I Do Die and Souvenir of Skin, respectively. The former of which boasts some insane death metal shredding on top of some brutal percussion and a surprisingly powerful operatic choir, and the latter of which standing as quite possibly the most gruesome and entertaining cut on the entire record. Some genuinely disgusting lyrics and vocals here. I'd go as far as to say that this is one of Trevor's best performances on any record ever. Her Opus Mangled stands as another favorite of mine. I love some of those really heavy, groovy riffs in the beginning, and I really like the bass solo from Jared Smith on this track, giving this a very funky feeling that almost feels pulled from the glory days of Cynic or Atheist. Contrasting that later with a literal wall of sonic tech death devastation, and some more super groovy riffs that truthfully would not be out of place on like an older Gojira record. I like that by this point in the album, Abiotic is really beginning to flex their melodic and progressive metal muscles, namely on the track Grief Eater Tear Drinker, which has some pretty enchanting and serene clean vocals, contrasted with some very harsh, almost symphonic tech death, again hearkening to some Shadow of Intent material, leading up to the album's explosive closing number, Gyokusai, which right around the halfway point pulls out one of the grooviest fucking riffs I have heard in recent memory. I am so close to giving this a 4 out of 5, and I really want to because it's clear to me, on top of everything we've just mentioned, that Abiotic have put their heart and their fucking soul into this album, something that we don't always see from modern technical death metal, a genre that is often obsessed with pretentious guitar noodling and sci-fi buffoonery. I'm tempted. I really am, but unfortunately, while everything we've just mentioned is really great, the rest of it, while by no means terrible, is just kind of okay, especially in comparison to everything we've mentioned. Most of which, may I add, is on the second half of this record. Don't get me wrong, I was enjoying myself up until If I Do Die, but I wasn't really blown away until Souvenir of Skin kicked in. That said, I do feel extremely comfortable giving this album an extremely enthusiastic 3.5 out of 5. Damn near close to a 4, just not quite fully there. It may not be, in my opinion, the most consistently fucking brutal and epic, but what is brutal and epic is so fucking brutal and epic. And honestly, on some level, I'm willing to bet I'm gonna be in the minority. I'm willing to bet good fucking money that the Abiotic fans are gonna look at every single second of this album and go, holy fuck, this thing's fantastic. And considering that those are the motherfuckers that Abiotic really needs to please following a 6-year hiatus, who am I to argue? The fact is, this is still miles ahead of so much of the tech death that is out there right now, performed with the utmost heart, soul, care, and attention to detail. These dudes definitely succeeded at doing everything they set out to do on this album. They came back with a motherfucking vengeance. Maybe not the most consistent vengeance, in my opinion at least, but a motherfucking vengeance nonetheless. 3.5 out of 5, an insanely enthusiastic one at that. Definitely check this out if you're looking for some super spicy, tasty, modern tech death. And that is it for the Metal Meltdown. I'm not an expert, nor do I claim to be. So what do you think? Do you like this record? Do you not like this record? And what do you want to hear from me next? And thank you for watching. Make sure you press subscribe so you get updates on the Metal Meltdown fucking immediately. And as always, you have yourself a fantastic fucking day.